Peace. Bye. My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our DUK Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Welcome back to DUK Dogs. I am your host, Josh Miller, and before we get rolling here, we should probably thank our sponsors because this show cannot happen without them. So thank you to Eukanuba. Eukanuba is the presenting partner on this show. Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020 is the blend of food that I feed my personal dogs and the dogs at the kennel, and some serious benefits that we have been seeing from feeding this high quality premium food, from energy level to coat to teeth to recovery time. I mean, just across the board, we are very, very happy. So go check them out. Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020. Also, thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck is your 5-star crash test rated kennel, both in the large and the intermediate. So no matter what size of dog you have, you know that they can travel with comfort and the highest level of protection out there. So go check them out, www.luckyduck.com. Also, thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your hunting and training needs. So be sure to go check them out to get all of your training equipment for this season. www.gundogsupply.com. Thank you to Retriever Roadmap. Retriever Roadmap is your premium online training program with step-by-step instruction to get you to your goals with your dog and the option to find your route to do it. So go check it out. I am the face and the voice that you will see in that program. So go check it out, www.retrieverroadmap.com. And also thank you to SITKA Gear. SITKA Gear is the premium performance outdoor wear, whether you're hunting, whether you're out training, or whether you're just in your everyday life. Go check it out. You will not be disappointed that you did. www.sitkagear.com. Well, hope everyone is having a fantastic day. I know that I am. And I have a lot that I kind of want to go over today and share with you and talk about, because I just got home from my seminar out at SITKA in Bozeman, Montana, and it was awesome. And so I want to share that with you. I want to share how that went. I want to share the travels. And then through my travels, I had an aha moment. I'm going to call it an aha moment where something hit me, and I want to share it with you guys because I think it's going to help. I think it will help perspective. I think it will help your mental psyche and also your approach as it comes to working with your dog and maybe even just in life in general. So stick around for that. But let me fill you in on the SITKA seminar. So first off, this was a little bit of a mini dream come true for me. And the reason I say that is because SITKA has been for many years a brand that I wanted to have a relationship with. You know, they're everything that I try to be. They're genuine in what they do. They're authentic in their message and how they go through, you know, the creation of their products. and they are a premium brand. And so with that very similar brand voice, it's always been one of those companies that I wanted to connect with. Well, years ago, I started training, just naturally through connections and how this stuff works. I started training, some dogs from some of the guys that are very influential in that brand. And it was a great way to start off the relationship. It was a great way to kind of get things going and, maybe give an understanding that there is, synergy in what we're doing and why we're doing it. And that was great. It was a great, start to the relationship. It was a great start to where we are now. But that's really all that it was. Like we had a great training relationship. They'd send me some products. All that stuff was great. But in the more recent years, our relationship has really bloomed into something pretty significant. Where I'm doing a lot of testing for their products, and I can tell you they put a tremendous amount of time and effort into their testing. I've done a lot of testing for a lot of companies. Most of the time what I have found when I get a product to test, it's already being made. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter the feedback because it's already in production. Like there might be a little tweak here and there that can be made, but really not much. What a company is looking for is give me the warm fuzzies that we're awesome so that we can go tell everybody else how awesome we are. SITKA is almost the exact opposite. I'm testing products right now in 2022 that are set to launch 2025. And the reason that we are so far ahead of this thing is because we know that there's going to be tweaks. We know that there's going to be revamps and ads and takeouts and everything that goes into making a premium product. So you need to have the lead time to do that. So, I love that part of it. Love the testing. Love being, feeling like I'm a part of the brand. But then Retriever Roadmap comes out, and of course I'm networking, trying to get the most for our members and be like, hey, is there something that you want to, do for our members, right? And this is part of the community, feel. And they came back and they're like, yeah, like we're going to give a major discount to your members because you're a part of our team. So we want to do this for you. Super, super awesome. So now I'm feeling more like a part of the gang, right? Well, when I went out and did this seminar, this was like solidifying it to me. It's like, okay, like I am now like a brand voice for you. Like you trust me enough to come here, be the face, be the message that you're trying to send. That's a huge deal to me. And so it was a trip I did not take lightly. I really wanted to make sure I did a really, really good job with this seminar. And I couldn't believe what great engagement I had from the audience. So first off, great audience. People came, the room was packed, but there were so many great questions. I mean, questions, regarding, puppies, a lot of advanced questions. And of course I was geeking out, especially at the end, because I've got my whiteboard there and, all these questions, I'm drawing stuff up and I'm erasing and I loved it. And it was set up to be a 3-hour-long seminar. And I'll be honest with you, initially I was like, gosh, like it's a long time for me to just stand there and talk, right? Like, do I have enough content, to go that long, right? Especially if there's no audience engagement, that can be really, really difficult. So I supplemented some Retriever Roadmap videos in there thinking, okay, this will break it up a little bit, give me a chance to, maybe catch my breath or, take a drink of water, like stuff that you just don't think about, until you do a bunch of speaking. And so I did that, and I had that all set up, and I actually had Whitney come up and talk during some of the puppy stuff, which she was not crazy about doing. She doesn't love the whole public speaking thing. But again, I'm like, hey, this is a great way to get an expert in this area up here, break it up. So like I'm putting a lot of thought into how to make this thing run for 3 hours as smoothly as possible. It went for 4.5. 4.5 hours. Probably the biggest reason is because the audience was so engaged. But I had my phone on the table there. I just tapped it so I could see the time. And we're supposed to be done. It was supposed to be 1 to 4. And I can see it's like 3:48. And I'm like, holy cow, like I'm probably just over halfway done with this thing, right? So I look at the audience, I'm like, hey, I know this is set to 4. I know we're coming up on that. Like, you guys, want me to tie this up? Do you want to keep going? And literally the whole room was like, let's keep going. No one left. It was incredible. It was awesome. I loved it. I loved the energy in that room. I loved the vibe. I loved the feel. And it was just fantastic. It really was. Then I got to, of course, we go to dinner, have a great time, great company, great people inside that company. And Whitney and I then took like a mini 2-day road trip as we went and visited, some people in some areas that we really enjoy in that great state of Montana. And so we set out and did that. And what was neat about it, between the seminar and between these stops, I got to see 5 dogs that I've trained. And it's so neat because, when I have the dogs and I have them at the kennel, of course, I always want to know, like, what's home life like? I have to imagine this is the same with school teachers, right? Like, okay, what is home life like? If I could just be a fly on the wall, like, what goes on? Like, what do you do on a regular basis? What are you involved in? What are you not? Where do you stay? Where are you allowed to go in the house? Like, and I'm not talking kids, right? I'm talking, dogs, back to dogs. But it's really an interesting thing for me. So then when I get to go actually see it, there's a lot of, oh, okay, I see why you wanted to get on the ranger seat every day while we were training and not hop back in the trailer, because that's what you do every day with mom and dad, right? Or I can see why you love your bed, in your kennel run so much, because I'm watching you now in your living room, and this is like your spot, right? Like, there's so much to that. It's super, super neat. And so I really like that a lot. But I want to talk about one of the people that I got to, connect with and spend some time with, because he's an old friend, and I just love where he's at right now. And so his name is Trevor. So I've been friends with Trevor for a long time. Actually, Trevor, for those of you that are maybe local to like the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, Trevor's dad, Dennis, used to write for the Minneapolis Star Tribune paper in the outdoor section. So he'd do all these stories and stuff. And so when Trevor was young, Trevor has a younger brother named Cole, we used to muskie fish a lot together. And I jokingly say this, but there's probably a lot of truth to it, that I think the biggest reason we started fishing together is because he was probably too young to drive when we first started fishing. So his dad, because what he did, had a freaking awesome Ranger boat, like completely decked out, gorgeous, super nice. And I remember when I got the green light to take the boys fishing, but I had to pull the boat. And like the whole time I'm just petrified anything is going to happen to this boat. But we had a ton of fun, fishing together. He ended up moving out to Montana, where he is now an outfitter. He's a guide. And so he works for a company called Latitude Outfitting. So if you guys are interested in, any trips, specifically fishing trips, I would definitely check them out, because I can tell you that I have fished with Trevor. I have fished with one of their head guides, Josh. They are fantastic. Like, I have a hard time thinking that there's many that are better than them. Like, they're just great. But like, he's so busy all the time, we really don't get a chance just to sit down and chat. And so I got to do that with him, on this trip. And I want to share with you, kind of how this went, because I'm just so proud of him, happy for him. And we were sitting down, we're kind of talking about things, right? So we're talking about, how things are going, and, his old dog, and now he's got a new puppy from us, and, how that's looking like. And, they have a waterfowl, section of their business that they're growing, what that's going to look like this year, how fishing has been, how fishing is hopefully going to go. Like, there's so much, right? And you can just feel the energy from him. And I just like stopped him in the middle of the conversation. I'm like, man, like you're happy. Like you are happy. And he gets this big grin on his face, like, man, like, I really am. And yeah, I genuinely love when my friends are crushing it and when they're happy. Like, I look at a number of my different friends off the top of my head, like Maddie Davis with Finalize, like literally hand sewing upland vests with his wife at night after their quote-unquote day jobs. He is happy, right? BMAC, Brian from Hush, like Hush is awesome, huge, crushing it, especially in the West, awesome, happy. Jeff Lander, great friend of mine, Primitive Outfitting, doing what he loves every single day up in BC and Alberta. He's bouncing around, happy. And so I start kind of looking at this, and I'm noticing his, just how it's just overflowing in him, right? And I just gravitate towards that energy so much. And so after I get to spend time with him, catch up with him, I leave and go on to my next route, right? My next stop is a little more negative, so I'm not going to use a name, right? But very, very different energy. This individual was very successful, has all the talent in the world, could still be very successful, but his energy is so different, right? So he has, so I go see him, like, hey man, like, how are you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, immediately off the bat, it's like, all right. And I'm just like, yeah, I can feel it. I can just, it's just kind of going through the motions, right? Then one of his buddies comes over, and I, introduce myself to him, like, hey man, how are you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm all right. Okay. And when that second, like, introduction went on, my mind just, like, started, like, spinning, right? You guys have known Brett, right? So Brett has been on this podcast numerous times. Brett has been a big part of helping me build a retriever roadmap and everything he's doing. So I'm now driving home, and I call Brett because we had some retriever roadmap stuff to go over. I call him, and I'm like, he answers the phone, like, hey man, how are you doing? And he's like, I'm great. How are you? And I'm like, huh. I get home. So this would be the next morning now. Whitney's trying to catch up. We're juggling, getting back in, like, our routine, like getting the kids to school, blah, 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 all this stuff going on. Puppy clients show up. The first thing I see, Whitney goes, she greets people as they go through the door. They're like, how are you guys? And Whitney's like, we're fantastic. Like, I'm like, well, I know that we're not fantastic because I know that we've been spinning our wheels feeling like we're going 100 miles an hour in 10 different ways all morning. But yeah, fantastic. And what I really started to realize is how I've surrounded myself with these, what I'm going to call, great people, right? So how you're starting off your conversations, how you're starting off your day, how you're starting off your thought processes in your mental state. Are you great or are you okay? And then this spins me off into a whole other thing, because now I'm like, oh my gosh, I've surrounded myself with what I'm calling these quote unquote great people. right? So then I start looking at like, these recent encounters, and it's like, do you want to be friends with someone that is okay or great? Do you want to do business with someone that is fine or fantastic? Do you want to have a conversation with someone that's all right or excellent? Right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm getting this energy, right? I'm like, I'm really, vibing off this. I'm building off of this. I'm like, this is awesome that we have like pulled this whole thing together. It's like success, success, success. So then I call and talk with he's a great mentor of mine. We talk about a lot of different things. And I'm like telling him this, right? I'm like, I'm really jacked up on this. And the funniest thing happened throughout that conversation. We turned to failures. And I promise this will wrap into dog stuff, but I really love this stuff. So through failures, and you think of failures, you're like, wah, wah, right? Like all of a sudden that vibe's gone. But what's interesting to me is that his perspective on it was that every one of those people that are great, that are fantastic, that are awesome, that have that energy, his perspective was, I promise you that they have gone through failures. And I was like, yeah, of course, right? We've all gone through failures. But wouldn't the person that's okay or fine or like, wouldn't that mindset, like, wouldn't they have failures too? And his comment back to me was, but the mindset has dictated how that failure is used. Does it fuel you or does it burn your flame out? I'm sitting there, oh my gosh, right? So I'm going to circle back on this because I have like a really cool moment, for me. I want to tell you about a couple of the failures that I've had in training and why it's pushed me. But to finish out my story here, all this is going on. I geek out on this stuff. Like I geek out on this, like the mental side of everything. You guys know this. If you've followed me, if you're on Retriever Roadmap, like you understand how much I truly believe that your mental state and how you approach things is a huge part of how this process or how your life is going to go, right? So I get back in the office. And if you know my office, if you've been in my office at the kennel, we have a refrigerator. The refrigerator is meant for, give clients water or a beverage if there's just, they're going to spend some time with us. But on that fridge, I have a whiteboard. Shocker, right? A big whiteboard guy. I have a whiteboard. And I'm always changing the motivation on that board, right? Most of my employees really look at that board and they really do think about it because we have conversations about it. But I'll put, if I hear a quote or a motivational saying or something that just like gets me going, I put it on that board. Try to keep it updated very often. Maybe not exactly every day, but every couple days, right? So I walk into the office and I look at that board. And I'm actually going to pull my phone up right now because I took a picture of it. And every once in a while, one of my employees will jump in and they'll put their own, quote on the board. And I walk into the office. This is so timely. I walk in the office and what is written on the board, I still don't know who wrote this because it was just, it would have been yesterday, so last night, is failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. And so when I saw this, it was late at night. So oftentimes I like to do little walkthroughs at night. This was probably 11:30 last night. So I like to go in the office, kind of do a walkthrough, check on all the dogs, check on everybody, make sure everything was locked up, taken care of. It's kind of like my like exhale breath for the workday. It's like everybody else is gone. This is my, I'm just me I can go just, take my time. And when I see this through walking through the office, I take a picture of it again, just because of everything that had gone on and how timely it was. I'm like, gosh, like there's a reason why, right? So I take a picture of this. And the reason I want to take a picture of it more than anything is because with how we do this, like oftentimes when one employee does that, maybe another employee will jump in, the next day and the next day. And then there's like this avalanche of motivation going on. And so I didn't want to lose that. So I go down into bed and I start looking at this photo, right? And again, it's just the photo of the board. So I'm looking at the photo and I'm super proud of whoever did this. And again, just very timely. Well, I start looking closer at the photo and didn't realize this was here. But up on top of the fridge, there's like a little crystal. It's actually not that little, but it's a crystal award that was given to me as one of what I consider one of my greatest accomplishments that I have had thus far in my life, which was in 2016, Riverstone Kennels was given the Emerging Business Emerging Business Award for Wisconsin Business Association. So in the state of Wisconsin, little old Riverstone Kennels somehow gets awarded the Emerging Business of the Year Award, 2016. Requirements I think were like businesses less than 8 years old, or I can't remember all the requirements. But of all the businesses, Riverstone Kennels, I never talked about that award. It sits up on that fridge. Apparently, to be honest with you, I didn't even know that's where it was. But I'm looking at that, and then I look back at that sign. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. You know how many times I've failed in that business? You know how many times I've failed just in general? I have failed with training sessions. I have failed with clients. I have failed with dogs. I have failed. All of those failures led to the Emerging Business of the Year. And so I start looking at more failures, right? And like how impactful these failures are. And again, I keep going back to that these failures could have put me out. These failures could have made it to where I give up, I throw in the towel, I'm no longer motivated, I'm not going to go forward. But instead, they motivated me and they pushed me. They pushed me through to the next level. Starting to see where maybe this applies in your life, right? Like, I think this is so impactful. So then I started thinking, okay, if I'm going to talk about this on DUK Dogs, it better wrap up into dogs at some point, right? So I started thinking about my training. I started thinking about, okay, where in my training have I failed? And I can tell you time and time and time and time again where I failed in a course of training. But there's two stories that really stick out to me. And these stories are specifically both in competition format because I think it's so easy to understand, where the failure was and then, why it helped me level up. But the first one would be, I'm going to talk about Ranger. So the first one is actually with a pointing dog. So this was back in my days that I was set out to prove that a retriever guy could be successful in the pointing dog world. And so I was field trialing off of horseback, which I love the horse aspect of things too. It just adds so much to it. And I love horses, just always have. And so I'm early in my career. I have a dog, an English setter, still have him today, named Ranger. And a Ranger was an absolute badass. Like that dude, he was just, still is, but he's just good. Like that dog did everything he needed to do to win, and he did it with style, he did it with pop, he did it with grace, like everything you could ask for. And so he had won a couple derbies, he won a few opens, And this was like the first really big trial. So what they call this a 5-point major is what it was. So majors are big fields of dogs, more points toward your champion title, a lot going on. And when you are field trial off horseback, just to paint the picture, because I know a lot of you probably are unfamiliar, is you have what is called a scout. And that scout is allowed to ride back in the gallery and to break off from the gallery if the dog that is running has kind of gone off, out of sight in an area, hasn't popped back out yet. That scout can ride off, cannot get in front of the judges or the handlers, right? But can stay back, but drift out to try to find, the dog. And if they find the dog on point, then they can, ride back to everybody, tell them that the dog's on point, because otherwise the dog's just going to stand there, right, doing his job. But if you don't see him, and of course you're on a wild course, you can lose a dog in visually, right? But that's different than a dog that's just going rogue and doing their own thing. So most of the time, these guys would travel as almost like partners, right? So like you have two pros, I'll scout for your dogs, you scout for my dogs. We try to make each other successful. Well, I didn't have that, right? Because I'm kind of still the new guy. I'm a retriever guy on top of it, so I didn't have that. Made a lot of great friends, but at this time, I wasn't kind of in the circle yet. And so I asked my dad to scout most of the time. Most of the time, I didn't even have a scout. But if I did, I'd ask my dad to go with me. And this was a big event, so I was like, I gotta make sure that I have a scout. Well, my dad on a horse is about as comical as you could get. I mean, he really, especially at this time, like he got better, especially the more we trialed, the more he was forced to get on a horse. But I think a lot of like the cartoon, like Don Quixote, where he's like and just like bouncing all over the place, arms flopping, like completely unnatural, completely uncomfortable. But that was my dad while we were scouting, while he was scouting. And so I asked my dad to scout, and I have all this pressure that I'm putting on myself because I really want to win this trial. So Ranger's doing his thing and just crushing this event. Like, looks fantastic, doing everything he has to do. I mean, just, bird finding, everything. Like, he was crushing it. And I was getting more and more focused on my dad, because although my dad is trying to help, I haven't done a good enough job explaining the rules, explaining, hey, you can't get ahead of us, right? So like all of a sudden, like I'm riding, I'm handling, watching Ranger doing one thing out of the corner of my eye. I see this horse like off to the side coming up. And so like I'm looking over there like, what are you doing? Like, you can't get ahead of us, right? And he's coming pretty dang close. Like, he's way off. And so I like look over and I'm hoping he figures it out, figures it out, and he doesn't. So I just like wave him back. Of course, the judges see it. So I'm like, gosh, so I'm kind of getting a little flustered, right? And then come up, Ranger's on point, and one of the jobs of the scout is when the dog's on point, the scout's supposed to come up, dismount, hold the handler's horse for him. Does this, I go and I flush, I shoot, then and then the scout takes the dog, walks them over, the handler gets back on their horse, tweet, we go, and we continued on the course. And he was just struggling. Like, I have a dog that's standing there on point, doing everything he's supposed to be doing, the whole gallery, the judges, and I'm standing there with my horse going, where's my scout? Like, I have no idea where he is. Well, he was off doing something, like thinking he was doing it right, like looking for, like, you don't have to look for Ranger, he's right here, right? Like, what are you doing? So, of course, especially with it being my dad, right, like, I'm getting more flustered. I'm getting more frustrated with the situation. So someone in the gallery just hopped down, took my horse for me, went in, did my thing, sent Ranger off. And at this point, we're coming more towards the end of the stake, right? So you run for a certain amount of time, sometimes half hour, sometimes a full hour, but that's your run. And I know that he's smoking it, but I am not mentally where I need to be. Like, I'm more frustrated with my dad than I am happy with Ranger. Ridiculous, right? But that's where I was. And, excuse me, this last find that he has, there's probably only 5 minutes left, of the stake, or of my run. And come up, and I, hear a horse coming behind me. I turn around, and, there's my dad. And I look at him like, what are you doing? And he's like, what? Like, he literally doesn't know, right? But I'm upset. So I give him, the reins to my horse, and I go in, do my thing, bird flushes, pop, steady, everything's great. Come back, grab Ranger. Now, one of the things that they cannot do, these dogs, when the bird flushes, let's just say for a general reference, if you're looking north, let's just say the bird, the bird flushes and flies, it flies east, right? Well, when you let the dog go, the dog can't run and chase the bird. That's called delayed chase. The dog's disqualified. So, to make sure that this doesn't happen, oftentimes we will face them west and then send them on that way because we want to avoid that opportunity, right? Some situations, of course, don't offer that, but a lot of times you can get that done. So I flush, I grab Ranger, I hand him off to my dad. My dad probably overwhelmed himself because he doesn't understand why I'm frustrated, because he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know the rules. He's never even done this kind of stuff before, right? And but I also know that Ranger's putting on a run, right? So my emotions are just high. So again, I hand Ranger, I have him by the collar, hand him over to my dad. I'm like, hey, we're going to go this way. Dad goes, okay. He starts, walking in. I get up on my horse, and as my dad's doing this, I realize that his horse, he is no longer holding on to, right? So for whatever reason in his head, again, I'm sure he's overwhelmed, there was a disconnect on, hey, I still need to hold on to my horse. So he just takes the dog and is walking and doesn't understand this delayed chase thing either, right? So he's not paying attention to where the bird went, all this stuff going on. And I'm up on my horse, and I'm just getting ready, and out of the corner of my eye, I see his horse kind of wandering off away. I'm embarrassed, right? And so I'm like, Dad. And I'm on my horse, so I turn my horse to go get his horse. He hears me say Dad and thinks he's supposed to be letting the dog go, lets the dog go. Ranger sees my horse turned and goes, oh, I guess we're going that way. Takes off right after the direction that bird flushed. Delayed chase. He's out with 3 minutes left in his run. The judges would later on tell me that he had it won by a mile, but I screwed it up at the very end. This has helped me so much understanding just to chill. Just take a breath. Everything that is going on, all the negative things that you are seeing, all the negative things that are weighing on you, okay? Why are you letting that become your focus instead of all the positives? I had literally the most beautiful run I have ever seen a dog put down in my life in front of me. Same words, as a matter of fact, the judges used. The most beautiful run they have ever seen. And I didn't appreciate it nor understand it because I was flustered and frustrated with something that I never should have been frustrated with in the first place. My dad's not doing a great job. My dad doesn't know where to be and when to be there. That's not his fault. That's mine. I should have been frustrated with myself. Actually, shouldn't have been in the moment frustrated at all, because I should have been more appreciative of what was going on in front of me. I should have been appreciating this moment, appreciating this time, and instead, I screwed it up. I was able to then take that moment, reflect on that, beat myself up a little bit because, dumb, and then go forward and apply it in a much better way. I then gave my dad, I had a horse named Herschel. I just loved that horse. He was a great horse, but he took care of my dad. Like, he knew how to do it. He knew what to do, how to do it, and he was a great horse. I then gave my dad easier jobs to give him success. Okay, so example, the very next trial, very next one, we had a dog named Pancakes. Now, Pancakes, there's a whole story behind Pancakes of why he was named what he is, and the friendship that came out of that dog, all the stuff. But Pancakes, on this one course, which was a pretty common one that we would run just because it was in Wisconsin and close to us, it's basically like a racetrack, right? So like it was just big loop and circle, and it would end up back at the parking area. Well, the last time that I ran that course with Pancakes, he had run it probably 4 or 5 times in his young career. Well, he knew the course. So he would just go like a bat out of hell, run as hard as he possibly could, and run in a full circle and then back up at the trailer. So for a half-hour run, he was probably back at the trailer in 5 minutes. No, we couldn't see it, but that's what he did. Because the reason I know this is the time previous to the story I'm going to tell you about, that we were at this event, I took off, let Pancakes go, never saw him again after the breakaway. I got back to the trailer, and there's Pancakes, and I had some clients sitting around. I'm like, hey, when did he get here? They're like 5 minutes after you left. Like, he ran through the whole course, and he came laid down in the horse water bucket to cool down. He's been hanging out with us ever since. I'm like, well, that was a waste of $60 or whatever the run cost. So I told my dad, I said, hey, we're going to go. We're going to break away from this, and this is what Pancakes does. So what I want you to do is I want you to just stand right here with your horse. Just stay here. We're all going to leave. I want you to stay here. And if he comes out, just call him and shoot him up the middle of the property. There was a deer trail that, kind of looked, I was like, see that deer trail? Just shoot him up there. Okay? So that's exactly what I did. Like, I broke it down, gave my dad a job, said, hey, do this, right? And what ended up happening was we were about halfway through the course. Obviously the handlers are up front, and I'm up front. I haven't seen Pancakes since the get-go, and like in the back of my head, I'm thinking train wreck, right? Like my dad couldn't figure out how to call him. He couldn't get the horse, over there to catch him, whatever it was. Like, I'm just trying to think, I'm like, here's another wasted run, right? And just about the time I was thinking that, all of a sudden I see through the woods this little white short hair named Pancakes shoot up, and when he just barely hit the clearing, boom, on point. Nobody can see it but me because we were just coming around the corner. But I literally watched it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was my dad shooting him up that trail. Like, the plan worked. Now, I came around the corner, saw that, called point. We come up there, and I hear one of the judges say, gosh, he's probably been standing here for 15 minutes. He absolutely wasn't, but it looked like it to the judges that didn't see that. We just came around the corner, and there's, a white dog standing there. So then all of a sudden, my dad's getting confidence. All of a sudden, he starts enjoying it. By the time we were done, I think my dad was probably the most disappointed person of anybody that I said, hey, doing both it doesn't make sense anymore. I have to come back and just, centralize my focus back on retrievers, because that's who I am. That's what we do. Like, I've proven what I wanted to prove. I got to come back to this. I think he was the most disappointed person of anybody, because he was loving it. He looked forward to those weekends. He wanted to go ride. He wanted to be involved. That helped me. It helped me understand, my mindset and perspective, right? I'll tell you about another failure. Another failure was with Brock. If you guys, again, follow along Riverstone Kennels with anything, you know Brock. I mean, Brock is my boy. He's my dude. He is, it's kind of sad he's getting older. I think he's 7 now. But this story is very early in his life. One of the earlier, I don't want to say it was the first, but it was one of the earlier hunt tests that he had run. He's running HRC test, finished title, or finished test to go towards his HRCH title, his Hunter Retriever Champion title. And we're in Kansas City, Missouri. And we have a number of dogs who are running there, both client dogs and a couple of my personal dogs. And there was like this big hole. Like, we're like this was a land series run. I'm up kind of on the hill, and kind of down the hill is where the triple mark is run. Then we run our blind. Okay, so Brock goes boom, 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 picks up his triple mark, great. And then I go to send him on the blind. So I line him up, send him, and he's kind of like veering off to the left, right? So tweet, whistles at him. He turns, but like something's wrong. And I'm like, what is going on here? So I'm looking at him, and I'm like, I don't know. And I'm trying to think of what cast I want to give him, but I'm trying to figure out what's going on first. And all of a sudden, he takes off to the right. And I'm like, what the heck? Tweet. I didn't give a cast. So he turns again, like just not right. Takes off, like back left. Tweet. Like, I'm like, what in the world is going on? Like, I can't figure it out. So on the third tweet, he turns, and I'm watching him, and I can tell he's not looking at me. He's looking like to my left. And so as I'm watching him, I like slowly move my head, and I kind of look to my left. And there was one of my clients talking to some other people, wearing the same sweatshirt that I was wearing all week while we were training. The same black Riverstone sweatshirt. And guess what? He was talking with his arms, with his hands. And so Brock heard a whistle, turned, picked that black sweatshirt up rather than me in my camouflage, right? Was looking at him, and as he's talking, he'd use his arms, and boom, Brock would go take that cast. Later on, could laugh about it. At the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, like what in the world? Failed, as you can probably imagine. But through that failure, taught me how to better handle, an approach on a competition, how to better prepare for a competition, maybe wear what you're going to be handling in, right? Don't get frustrated with failures. Embrace them and push forward. They will break you down or build you up. One of the two. I have loved the failure reflection time that I have had now for the last couple of days, because when I look at any success, when I look at any of my personal successes, if I look at any of my friends' successes, I can trickle back and count the failures that it took to get there. Why I think this is so difficult with our dogs is because as you're training at home and you run into one of these failures, right? So like you can't get over this hump, or you have a bad training session, or you just hit this roadblock time and time again. There's something about dogs that make it easy to blame everything but yourself. The breeder didn't do a good enough job. The dog's just not the right dog. Right? The trainer screwed me and did something. The program I'm following just it's not good enough, right? It does, like, come on, you guys. Right? Like let's take some personal ownership in this. Like, maybe there's something that I'm doing. I had a client a couple weeks ago come, and he came to check in with his dog. His dog was going through handling, and he wanted to see his dog. And I said, you're not gonna get to work with your dog until we get you right, okay? And he's like, I know how to do this. We start breaking it down, and he starts going, oh my gosh, maybe I don't know how to do this. We spent 3 days. He never worked with his dog once. Got to see her, of course, but never worked with her because we were getting him right. Right? And later on, he goes, maybe this is why it was so frustrating at home. Maybe this is why we weren't getting over some of this stuff. Of course it was. It was fun to talk with him about why he was so frustrated at home. And it was fun to talk with him about the aha moments he had through the process of learning and gathering this information of how he can get better. So interesting. Again, let's talk mindset. Let's talk perspective, okay? So another thing that I've recently encountered is I have 2 older clients right now. They're really not that old. They feel that they're old, but they're really not that old. That when they came to me for a puppy, they had talked about how this is the last dog that they're ever going to, own. They want it to be, this exact perfect replication of what they have envisioned. And I told both of them, that's great. Let's get you a finished dog. Let's get you a finished dog so you can see exactly what this dog is and you can know, are you happy or not? Both of them said, I love the puppy phase. All the excuses of like, I want to build the relationship with the dog. I want to have the dog as a pup. I want pop. All great stuff, okay? But now, the same people that wanted this puppy, both of them, I've had to have a conversation with both of them the last couple of weeks. Both of them are now sitting here going, gosh, why is it like, I wish that the dog was getting this faster, and I can't miss a hunting season. I don't know how many I have left, and you guys, you were the one that wanted a puppy. It's a process to get to that finished product. I'm sorry, you're probably not hunting this dog this year, and I know that can be frustrating, but don't change your approach now. Like, we talked about the finished dog. You didn't want it. Now we're trying to get you a finished dog, but it takes time to get there. You don't get a finished dog overnight by having a puppy. Don't change your expectations along the way if it's unfair to the dog, right? It's unfair to that dog. I told the last gentleman this. I said, you wanting a finished dog right now is unfair to this dog because she's not that yet. She's too young for it. She's immature, quite frankly. She needs time to develop, and she needs time to get there. You want a finished dog, and you'll get a finished dog at the right pace and through the right time. But you have to love the process, because that's exactly what this is, right? Have your mind right. My challenge to you all this week is be a great person. Don't be okay. Don't be fine. Be great. Be fantastic. Be awesome. Be excellent. Try it for a week. Just try for a week. Every single time someone tells you or asks you how you're doing, try using one of those in place of what you've been using. I would be willing to bet you will see a change in the interactions you have. I think you're going to lift the people up you're talking to. I think you yourself are going to reciprocate, lift up as well. And I think you're going to have more impactful and more enjoyable conversations. Just try it. Try it. Let me know what you think. And I hope you all have a fantastic, excellent, awesome rest of your week. Have a good one, you guys.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes. And a special thank you to Yukonuba, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.